They were here before by Corinne Samuels, Chapter 3. Shani. Despite all the foreboding, Shani got herself together, managed to fight through the people traffic, and got to work with time to spare before the daily huddle. Needless to say that this congregating is always perturbing for her, but the fact that it's quick helps. Naturally, having a little extra time means a quick visit to her Instagram account. For someone who is quite antisocial, Shani rarely loves social media. And really, who could blame her? Social media brings people from all races, class, and creed together, and is therefore an opportunity to live vicariously through others, go to places she would never be able to go, meet new people, fall in love, break up with them over the span of a few posts, and never leave the comfort of her home or office. Regular people get to see celebrities up close and personal and observe what life is like in other parts of the world. Through this medium, she gets to explore the human condition as she is given an insight into how connected we all are as individuals, how similar we all are, the various emotions that we all experience, and this is on display through people's lived experiences. Of course, some of it is staged, but who really cares when it is a free source of entertainment and a free way to connect? Speaking of which, clicking from one post to the next, Shani has discovered someone who seems to be quite similar to her, except that he's an extrovert, not an introvert like her, although it is hard to tell. He could really be an ambivert. His name is Luan Melo Kuble. She is well aware that this might not be his real name, but after a quick Google search, she concurs that this name suits him quite well because it literally means lion, stand up for good. This name suits him not only because his profile picture is an image of a lion, but also because of his stance and understanding of notions around social justice, but also because he seems to possess a deeply insightful understanding of the human condition. This core understanding cannot be faked. It would have had to emerge from a life well lived, a life that has embraced a specific kind of suffering, which has left the individual better and not bitter. Luan strongly favors unity for all African nations, but even in that call for unity, he still celebrates the uniqueness of those individual nations. Last month, he went on a 2 week rant, calling out the hypocrisy of African leaders for their seeming nonchalance as it relates to the plight of their people, some of whom still live in deplorable conditions in townships like Soweto. Needless to say, because Soweto is important to him, it is also important to her. That's just how it is. Therefore, she did a Google search and made this startling discovery about Soweto. Soweto was created in the 1930s when the white government started separating blacks from whites, creating black townships. Black people were separated from whites by a so called cordon sanitaire, which was usually a river, railway track, industrial area, or highway. She was in shock and awe because this was clearly another way of separating and segregating people based fundamentally not on war crimes or any such thing, but based on skin color. This discovery resonates with her own history, in particular, the Jim Crow laws, which was legislated by Parliament and practiced all the way up to 1965. As a matter of cold fact, the sanitary corridor was just the precursor to apartheid in South Africa. This was the most systemic and lasting form of racism because it was entrenched in the institutions which were supposed to serve humans but turned out to be the delivery systems to perpetuate hate against a specific segment of humanity. Loan oftentimes decries the poor social conditions which still exist in Soweto. Sometimes he seems frustrated, other times enraged, and a few times confused. Yes, she can read tone in images and words as well, with or without exclamation marks. Sometimes she understands vibes even before a single word is expressed, even more so than words. The situation in Soweto is deeply disturbing. Shani thought, like, wow, black people can't catch a break, not even in their own country. After these disturbing discoveries, I desperately want to reach out to my Lion King to let him know that I am with him and I am for him. However, I am just way too shy. Plus, what if he rejects me? I have a panic attack every time I attempt to click the little heart to turn it red. That little heart is a symbol of my love for my king of the jungle. No, I absolutely could never try to get his attention. I have this irrational fear that if I ever liked one of his posts, then his attention would be drawn to my own very boring therapy posts. All I post are images of flowers, a variety of trees, bodies of water, a wide assortment of animals, and woke quotes, which speak to me at a deep level. Unlike other people's, my IG is dedicated primarily to my emotional well being, which I absolutely need if I'm going to continue to live in New York City. At this point, I have 50 followers, and I'm quite sure they follow me out of a deep sense of sympathy. Also, I thank my fairy that Mr. Luan's account is not private, which would have required me to send a follow request and would require him to allow me to be a follower. That would be an absolute disaster. What if he rejects me? This rejection has happened before, and it took me months to even log into IG again. As a matter of cold fact, I almost deleted my account. The precursor to this happened that one time when I had recently moved to New York and I met a guy in Red Lobster. I forced myself out of a sense of loneliness to sit there and talk with him for 45 minutes, the longest 45 minutes of my life. Anyways, at the end, I didn't want to exchange numbers, so we exchanged social media information. But he did not tell me that his account is private. Normally, I would not have been so brazen as to send him a friend request. But since we had had such a interesting conversation, I felt like it would be safe enough to do so. However, after I sent that request, I stayed online for almost 2 hours waiting on him to accept. And when he didn't, I felt like I was going to die. I was crushed. Thankfully, there is a cancel request option, and since that time, I have never made that mistake again, nor would I ever attempt anything so dangerous again. Nope, way too stressful. I continue to enjoy this one-way transaction with the Nemean lion. This is another term of endearment as he seems impervious to other people's scathing comments. For instance, there was that time when he had posted a comment about Donald J. Trump, and half his over 200,000 followers lost their minds. It was horrible to watch. I felt every blow delivered by each scalding tirade. It was way too much for me emotionally. I went to bed feeling chafed and raw. But true to form, the Lion King was in his element, and he took on the most ferocious of his attackers. In fact, the next day he posted a gorgeous picture of himself dressed in full black, and as a preemptive strike, his caption read, "My haters have arrived." The lion is always in fine form and hilarious beyond measure. That is the other thing I love about him, his sense of humor. and how he is able to use it with skillful agility to deflate his attackers. Some days I sit in silent reverence, envisioning the conversations that we could have and the lascivious deeds that would follow. Over and over again, I catch myself grinning from ear to ear in private pleasure gained from these salacious reckonings, while also blushing at the same time. These escapades would emerge in my mind at the most incongruous times. It is sometimes cringeworthy, especially moments when people would catch me smiling for no reason that's apparent to them. The shame is real, but the pleasure greater. Therefore, I cannot come up with a good enough reason to cease and desist. Clearly, I can do whatever I please in the confines and solitude of my own mind, which I do often, despite sometimes feeling like I'm dreaming my whole life away, living my whole life in someone else's world. However, I find comfort in knowing that some people play leading roles while others pay to watch. I do get depressed sometimes by this very meager, sense subsistent existence. But how can I ever imagine living any other way when living in my head for a lifetime, being all I know? How can a person change without knowing of another way of being? One cannot change what they can't see.